welcome back to Open. Our second guest is a writer, director, educator, and animator who's dedicated himself to creating some of the most creative content in films, music videos, and animation. He's won many awards for his films, and he currently runs an animation program at Host Community College and also teaches at Harvard, providing the keys to creating animation. Currently being featured on our BronxNet channels, let's take a look at The Lost Tribes of New York City.
Harlem is my roots. New York has been, it's good. It's what you make out of it. It's how you do it.
I feel like New York like a big party because music everywhere. You can dance.
Where'd you grow up?
And the BX.
Where's MBX?
And the BX. The Bronx.
In Italy, there are less different people because here there are a lot of different people. For example, come posso dirlo? Asian, African, and in Italy not so much.
Our culture, the black culture, is beautiful. But we have to learn to stick together, love one another, whether you're white, blue, red, black, green, or whatever.
Los lugares, la gente.
Was that a whistle at me? Here now to share more about his upcoming projects, please welcome Andy London. Hello.
Hi.
How fabulous.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And so appropriate. What a wonderful introduction, not only to you, to me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw them whistling at me, huh? That's such a New York thing.
Sure, yeah.
And the essence of that whole piece is a New York thing. So let's talk a little bit about your ideas and how they even come into fruition.
Well, I'm a New Yorker. I've been here for 51 years, and I spent a lot of time on New York City streets. And so, and I hear a lot of different people and voices, and I see a lot of stuff on the streets. So for that film, I just put them both together. But
yeah, no, the beauty of it is that you took objects that I think we see every day that we kind of disregard, and you gave them life, right? Because they're there, and that's lovely. That's lovely. So, in addition to that, you're a teacher, and you teach at Hostos, and you also teach at Harvard. Wow, totally different dynamics.
very different, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
I mean, there are some similarities. I mean, I find the Hostos students, lots of them are really hardworking, like the Harvard students, and they share that animator gene, the students I teach at least, where they're really obsessive compulsive and detail oriented, and they have the same taste in movies. So, I mean, there's some similarities. In fact, often I combine the classes, and so I have Harvard and Hostos students collaborate with each other, and that's really fun because they usually get along really well, and it's pretty easy to do.
So obviously we can't go through an animation class, right, in its entirety. But what are the first points of animation? Like, how do you take a person into that world? Because
usually what I do is they take a smartphone out and they shoot pictures frame by frame on their smartphone, and I have them do stuff that defies the rules of nature. Because if you can shoot something frame by frame, you could have somebody jump up in the air and then take a picture of them jumping up in the air again and again and again. It looks like they're flying when you actually play it. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff, just like real immediate gratification type of exercises. And then then we explore the principles of character animation, and that's the things that really bring inanimate objects to life, whether it's a drawing or whether it's a piece of street furniture. It's being able to exaggerate the actions that these things make, and to like squash and stretch, or having things arc, or having anticipation before things happen. Those are the kinds of things I teach.
how did you find the world of animation?
By mistake, actually. I was 30 years old, and I wanted to take a website design class, and I signed up for the wrong class. I ended up taking a puppet making class for stop motion animation, and most of the class was just making puppets. But the last week, I got to animate the puppet, and I just fell in love with the whole just watching that puppet come to life. And so at the time I was an ESL teacher, and I worked overtime. I did a lot of private lessons and classes, and I saved up for equipment, and I volunteered to animate a friend's music video, and that led to a career, so that's how I did it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so what we just saw, is there a certain term that's used for that type of animation versus like,
Yeah.
I guess graphic animations? I mean,
Sure.
my daughter would like, my daughter's into anime and and all of that and manga, and so I don't really understand the language. Like, can you walk me through a little bit of it? Like,
Sure.
what did we just watch?
That's called 2D computer animation and time-lapse animation. I shot footage of city streets frame by frame on a camera, and then I brought that footage into a program called After Effects, and I separated parts of the street furniture to make it look like it's moving, and I animated it in a program called After Effects.
It sounds
And it's 2D computer
time-consuming.
animation.
It
It's
sounds
very time-consuming. Yeah,
And so
it is.
now the animation, which we're going to show
Yeah.
some of that as well, that's your actual visual what am I saying? Drawings, right? That's your actual drawings. Is that the right term?
Yeah, depending on the film. I don't know what film you're showing, but it's probably the English teacher or...
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I use a program called TV Paint and a piece of equipment called Cintiq, and I can draw directly on a screen, frame by frame, and it's exactly the same as doing hand-drawn animation, but you're saving paper and you're saving the exercise of like scanning stuff, and you do it directly on the computer.
So you do it on the computer,
It is,
and
but,
the
yeah.
actual term is hand drawing.
Hand-drawn animation.
Hand-drawn
Yes,
animation.
traditional hand-drawn.
And so it's computerized, so it allows you to move through it quickly.
Well, it simplifies the process.
Right,
but it's
because
exactly
before
the
you had to go
same.
like this to a paper, right, in order to get the animation to move.
Yeah, you had to take a stack of paper and you flip through the paper and you can see it animate. And you do it pencil and paper, then you have to do a pencil test, which requires a camera, and you have to shoot stuff, and then you have to ink it. And it's just a very very tedious process of ultimately bringing it into the computer. So this just saves all those steps, and you can just animate directly on a screen.
And so before we go,
Yeah.
if someone's watching that's interested in
Yeah.
getting into the world of animation, what advice would you give them?
They have to be. It's animation's like pushing a golf ball across the country with your nose. So if they're okay with that, then it's
an
fine.
analogy.
It's just a really super tedious process. On a good day, I animate about 2 seconds, maybe 3.
Right.
So if you want to make a 20-minute film, it's like, goodbye your 40s. It's a long time.
It's a time-consuming
Yeah.
process. So you have to really love it.
You have to love it, and you have to be willing to spend a lot of time alone, acting frame by frame, often in dark places because you don't want light to affect what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, it's a it's a weird obsessive thing, but I mean, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful medium.
Well, it sounds therapeutic too,
Yeah.
based on the way you just
Yeah, it
described
is. I actually hide from my family and go to a studio and and pretend to be at work when I animate. So.
All right, thank you, Andy. All right, you guys, once again, we will be featuring a new animation by Andy London on Thursday, August 22nd, during our animation block from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on our BX Omni channel, Optimus 68, Fios 34. Please make sure to check it out. And for more information on Andy, please visit londonsquared.net. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll speak to a fashion designer that specializes in making luxury suits. We'll be right back.